On Sunday, 14th of November 2015, 3,000 cyclists were allowed to bike the Auckland Harbour Bridge. This event shows clearly the crowds that Northcote Point will be expected to host virtually every daylight hour, every summer day, once Skypath is built. It is important to remember, while watching this footage, that according to the official figures of the Auckland City Council Planning Research Document 2014 for the Skypath Resource Consent, that Northcote Point and Westhaven will have to host 5 times this amount. 14,337, rising to over 20,000. Approximately 2,000 people every daylight hour. So what did Bike the Bridge need to do to manage this event safely? Because Skypath is going to have to do the same. Crowds have minds of their own and need constant supervision. To cope with the 3,000, only proficient cyclists were allowed. No pedestrians, no children under 11, no dogs, no skateboards, no wheelchairs or pushchairs. They had to allow motorised cycles and unicycles by law, although they didn't wish to do so for fear of holding up the free flow of vehicles. And Skypath will have to do the same. Cyclists need room. They use the whole of the vast acreage of Smales Farm as a collection point. Smales Farm is an isolated industrial area with no housing in the vicinity, so the noise, and it was noisy, was not a nuisance. Many arrive by car. Smales Farm has plenty of parking at 6 a.m. in the morning, although Smales Farm would find it hard to accommodate this number on weekdays during business hours. The police and St John's ambulance, with first aid tents, were out in force, and banks of portaloos were erected, along with refreshment stalls. Virtually all of the participants had pre-booked and prepaid to avoid queues for tickets, and so there were no turnstiles or blocked exits and entrances. The numbers were limited too. Temporary crowd barriers were erected in the car parks to funnel the cyclists down the bus lane approaches into Smales Farm bus station, where the cyclists occupied all the lanes available. At the start, loudspeakers instructed the huge crowd with rules as to how to behave. No speeding, no racing. It was to be a leisurely ride.
Good luck to everybody. Have a good ride out there.
Anyone disobeying the rules would be removed by the fluorescent-coated marshals who were stationed 25 metres apart the whole length of the bridge to enforce speed requirements. Beside the large police presence, over 100 buses were stationed to form a barrier to line the route to protect the cyclists from the cars. Because of one-way traffic only, the cyclists had free passage on a 3.5-metre roadway and plenty of run-out in the event of an incident with marshals to help. There were no residential properties at both ends. Under these favourable conditions, it took about an hour for everyone to cross. Once off the bridge, they were stationed at Westhaven, which, even though it's more space than Northcote Point, was pushed to accommodate the numbers. Once more, the noise made by this crowd was more than noticeable. This footage proves it would not be possible to run the Bike the Bridge event as it was run, starting at Northcote Point, even if the traffic went just one way. 3,000 people crowded together in a confined space is dangerous, noisy, and difficult to control. There is simply not enough space on Northcote Point for 3,000 cyclists, pedestrians, their cars and bicycles, pushchairs, prams, ticket offices, public transport, taxis, public conveniences, roads, access for visitors, safety vehicles, plus the residents of Northcote Point, the customers at the cinema, the shops, the cafes, the church hall, the restaurants, and senior citizens' rooms. 5,000 movements an hour on summer days is madness. Skypath is guaranteed this number on the first day, as the PR has been so persuasive. The area of available space under the bridge is limited. Most is taken up by roading and bridge infrastructure that can't be altered. When the Skypath landing is added, there will be little room for the crowds envisaged, and no room for emergency services of police, ambulance and fire engines. These alone will take up the entire space. The roads and access on Northcote Point were not designed to handle these numbers, just as the roads in Mecca were not designed to handle this year's Hajj, or the cafe in Romania with one exit was to handle a crowd of 300 and a fire. Human crushes with crowds are all too common, but safety is overlooked. The Pike River mine disaster is an ongoing example of faulty safety planning. Build it first, then work out how to run it with these numbers is out of the question. So far, Skypath and the resource commissioners have failed to say how Skypath is going to control the numbers. 5,000 movements of cyclists and pedestrians an hour is not minimal. Anyone can see it is huge. Knowing the area, the space involved, and the traffic problems, how can the residents of Northcote Point be expected to mediate on Skypath when they haven't been given any information of what is required to run it?